Now, if all this is true, what does it mean for us today and what we experience? Here are 3 things, because that's tradition for pastors and it sounds holy. First, because Jesus lives, we live with hope. Right? This life is not all there is. Its tragedies and disappointments, its pains and losses, all very real, actually don't have the final say. We anticipate something more, something better, something far greater and more beautiful to come. And that something does not depend on our circumstances, or the political party, or the president in charge, or the moans of the economists, or real or made-up persecution, or even people liking us. Our hope does not depend on our success, on our comfort, on our capability, on our health, on mountaintop experiences, or core memories, or the Seattle Mariners, though may they still win this afternoon. Our lives, our hope, depend only on Jesus. And he loves us. He gave himself for us. And he's still alive. Do we live like it? Second, because Jesus lives, we can live without fear. Part of the tragedy of humanity has been living under the threat of death, right? Today, we try really hard in our culture actually to distract ourselves from death until we're confronted by it. And so much of our culture is about avoiding it, right? Whether through fame or dieting or medication or technology. Or we make it an entertainment, right? But death has always been our greatest enemy, because all we accomplish, all that we gain in life, all that we strive for is lost in death. What we have goes to others. What we accomplish is eventually forgotten. All our dreams end in the grave. And then comes the uncertainty of what happens next to us. But for those united to Jesus, we don't fear death, right? In fact, this is something that stunned the ancient world. They saw Christians willingly face death, whether it was being torn apart by dogs and lions for sport because they refused to deny Jesus, or because they were willing to care for plague victims and to die themselves in order to love their neighbors who were also their enemies. This was actually one of the greatest testimonies of the early church, that they weren't afraid to die, and so they weren't afraid to live either. Right? They weren't afraid to give themselves away, to live in genuine community, in committed families, and with lives of generosity and hospitality and sacrifice and love. Because if we belong to Jesus, if our hope depends only on him, and he truly is alive, and all he claimed is true, then we live by faith and not by fear. And that doesn't mean we don't feel fear. But when we do feel fear, we can trust Jesus instead of it. And for our particular moment, we don't need to fear not being in control. Right? We don't have to be in charge. We don't need to win a vote or have culture follow us or people agree with us. And so we don't use hatred and violence to gain our rights or keep our freedoms, whatever we think those are, when we seem to be losing them. But neither do we need distractions and experiences or wealth or entertainment when we don't have those things, right? We don't need any of those things to truly live. In fact, I found that those things often keep us from really living instead. Living without fear because of Jesus, yes, may probably mean loss. It may mean pain. It may mean death. But death is defeated by Jesus. And our life is bound to him, and it's found in him and in nothing else. Do we live like it? Third, we live with Jesus. While we anticipate the resurrection of our bodies to come, the reality of being united to Jesus means that we actually share in his life now somehow. And he also shares in our life. And if we let him, and we do this through his Spirit, but that's a different sermon for a different day. Right, so we are never alone. Right? Jesus is not just an idea we agree with, but a person with whom we walk through life. And as we said here many times before, to follow Jesus, to live with Jesus means to be with him, become like him, and to do as he did. Right? Being with him means that he gets time and attention, just as every other important relationship. Becoming like him means that our character and desires are shaped by him rather than anything else. And doing as he would do means we join him in what he's doing to heal the brokenness of this world and to help people know and find true life in him. Right? Living with Jesus means then we love our enemies without fear rather than trying to dominate or destroy them. Living with Jesus means serving even the people we think are hopeless with hope and compassion. Living with Jesus means facing suffering and brokenness and death, never alone but hand in hand with him. And when we feel overwhelmed by life, it means clinging to him. And when we can't feel or find him, it means clutching the gospel with a death grip to remind ourselves of what is true. And this probably should be a fourth point, but living with Jesus also means living with each other too. Right? Because we all are united to Jesus. All who believe in him and trust him belong to him, and therefore, in a weird way, we also belong to each other. And so in seasons where we can't see him or feel him, we can at least see each other. Right? We can remind each other of what is true, of hope, of courage, that we belong to Jesus and he belongs to us. That Jesus is our life, and our life is his, and that is everything. So do we live like it? Of all the statements of the Apostles' Creed, I've often found this one the hardest. Perhaps because, as Paul says, it is of first importance. But it's also the hardest, I think, for us to experience. I have not personally witnessed anyone come back from the dead. And neither does it often feel like I'm sharing in Jesus' life now. But maybe it's a lot more normal than I'd like to imagine. But in times of doubt, of despair, and of fear, I think the question we have to keep returning to is this. Do we believe that Jesus rose from the dead? Right? If not, then we do not have to worry about following him or what he taught or promised. There is no reason to. But if we do believe, right, if we trust in the scriptures and the testimony of his followers and even open our eyes to the strange encounters with his spirit even today, then we must also accept all that Jesus did and all that he taught and all that he promised. If he's alive, then we do have hope, whether we feel it or not. We don't have to be afraid, regardless of what comes or what is happening around us. And we can live with him, the one who loves us, who gave himself for us, and who shares his life with us, both now and for eternity to come.